How's it going, everyone? This is Dixon of the Ultimate Gamer I'm logging on. And today, we're going to take a look at the recently release of the Polymega Remix. Right now, we're just doing the unboxing right now. What is the Polymega Remix? Well, this is actually this is pretty much more of a downgrade down from the original Polymega base unit. But it's only a few steps down, should I say. Well, the original hardware was actually in development for 10 years, and of course, eventually came out, I think, around 2020, around that time. And getting the base units are hard to get around to, but the Polymega Remix was just recently released, and it was $200. What does this thing do? Well, it pretty much does the same as the base unit, except it doesn't hook up to a TV. You have to hook it up to a computer. I mean, you can hook it up to a TV, but you just have to, can't do it HDMI way, like you can with the base unit, which is kind of odd, but I know. But this is kind of a cheaper alternative to get one of these, and it's the only way how I can get a Polymega as of now, since the base units are kind of hard to get around to. But now let's take a look at the box here. And the thing I failed to realize when I first ordered this, it didn't come with a controller. Yeah, that was a bummer, so I had to get the controller separately, which is this one. This is the second version of the controller right here, which is a controller called, yeah, it's the default WCO2 Universal Wireless Controller. That's for this system. That looks almost like the PlayStation controller. Now let's just unbox the system itself. The thing's pretty light. This is what the thing looks like here. See? On the front, that's where you insert and eject the disc, 2 USB cables, and on the right side there's an eject button which ejects the module part so you can add the cartridge module into the system. And on the back there's a USB port and a power adapter. Regularly on the base unit they have the HDMI ports, but this one doesn't have one, so. Next, we're going to do the unboxing of the controller, which is known as the WCO2 Polymega Universal Wireless Controller. Obviously, what WCO2 mainly, I'm assuming it stands for Wireless Controller 2. So, but this is obviously the second model, so. However, like I said, I had to buy this one individually because the Remix console did not come with it. The controller itself right here. Now the controller itself looks pretty much like a PlayStation 3 or controller, since it has the trigger buttons as the shoulder buttons on the back. And it looks more like a PlayStation controller than anything else. It's good with PlayStation games, but with Sega Saturn games, it's kind of a different story since they have 6 buttons on the front. It came with a USB cable for just to plug in while it's charging, or it's also a USB charger for the controller itself. And this is the wireless dongle that came with it. Definitely going to be using this quite a bit with the default controller. There we go. Alright, now let's fire this bad boy up. And now, first disc I'm going to try out on this machine is the game I purchased from Henderson, Nevada, one at the game store. Missile Command, which is a CD-Rom remake of it. I haven't tried this one out before. They've done many remakes of this game in general. I haven't tried the CD-Rom version before, so this is going to be the first time I'm going to try it. Got it for a good deal at the store, so I decided to pick it up. Let's give it a test. Oh, and by the way, I'm having trouble with the OBS capturing the Polymega app, which really sucks because I wanted to capture the game footage. So I'm just going to be doing it from my camera again. I do apologize that I couldn't get the OBS to work with this thing. I tried multiple ways of doing it, but so far the camera's the only thing that can work right now. Well, and this Polymega system also has a database on here too of all the games that are compatible from each system. And of course they can read the data off the disc once you put it in the machine. Of course you have an option of playing the game off the disc itself, or you can just install the game on the system and then play the game without playing off the disc. Which playing it off the system is more recommended because sometimes the optical disc kind of like skips a little bit here and there too due to a hiccup or something. You know how all these optical drives are. So far this game's running pretty good.
This is Probe Ship Orion. We are investigating Object 1. We're seeing some sort of activity, an alien ship of some kind. Greetings and welcome. Commander!
Well, while we're at it, we may as well talk about the game itself. It has two modes, the classic mode and the ultimate mode. The classic mode is definitely more like the arcade, except it's more than the classic 1980 arcade game, except it's more advanced for the 90s. And so far it looks pretty good. There was also a Missile Command 3D on the Jaguar. That one was also pretty good too. They have so many updates and remake versions of Missile Command here and there. Now the classic mode in this game feels more like an updated version of the classic, but this ultimate mode is more of a story mode with its own original ideas.
Your new coordinates are being sent now. Regroup your team and engage.
Well, I didn't get too far into the game yet, because like I said, I just recently got this and I played it for the first time. But so far, I'm enjoying it, and I don't regret paying $10 for this one. So let's move on. What's also neat about this Polymega thing, you can also have a selected music track that you download it onto the system and playing in the background. Like I'm playing with Twisted Metal's theme now, or one of the tracks from the game. Right now, I want to show you a multi-disc game that I grew up. One of the first games I played on the PlayStation D. And that was a save state I loaded. So glad to play this version again. It's probably the best version to play, though, most likely. Better than that digital release that was on GOG or Steam. I hope they remaster this game soon, though. This one definitely deserves a proper remaster. Hopefully this game, along with Enemy Zero and D2, get a special treatment release as well. I have a huge library of PlayStation 1 games on here, and I'm certain I have more than that what's on here that I haven't found or uploaded yet. Some of them I have, not all of them been installed, but I just put them in there just to add to my collection. Of course, you can install a game to add to collection as optional. You don't have to install it though. See, now let's see what other CD games I have in this collection. Oh, I have one TurboGrafx CD game called JB Harold Murder Club. I saw this one on eBay one time and decided to get it, even though I don't have a TurboGrafx CD. I decided to get it anyway. And these are all the Saturn games I have on here. These are all the ones I have, though. I never really did collect much into Saturn games. Probably should have, though. Alright, now taking a look at my Sega CD collection here. I got quite a few of them. Or a whole bunch of them on here. Bunch of memories as well. Yep, the Sega CD version of Mortal Kombat, which is absent from the anniversary collection that recently came out. I had the Sega Classics 5 and 1. Rise of Dragon, which is definitely an underrated gem. I have the 32X version of Night Trap on here, along with the regular version. Yeah, so I actually have two different versions of it. Well, the original 1992 version of Night Trap, not the re-released Sega CD version in 1994. Yeah, Mortal Kombat, which that Sega CD version is the only one that's not released on the Legacy collection. Got my Sherlock Holmes games and my Dracula Unleashed games, which I already talked about already, so added them to my collection, have not installed. Of course, one of my favorites, Snatcher. I played that one on here, and it looked real, and it played pretty damn good. Sonic CD. Wing Commander. Now, the Terminator, which is an awesome game on the Sega CD, but there's an issue with that one. I'll talk about that one in a minute. Starfire. Star Wars Chess. There's also Star Wars Rebel Assault on Sega CD, but I don't have that one. Wirehead. WWF Rage in the Cage. Now, the Terminator game on the Sega CD, which is based off the first movie from 1984, it's definitely one of the best movie-based games I've ever played too. Even though it's not perfect, but however, the gameplay is pretty good and the soundtrack's really awesome. It's really awesome that they actually have a playback soundtrack on the CD itself. But here's a problem I have with this game on the Polymega. It won't play. Actually, it can play, but after you skip the cutscenes, listen to this. What the fuck? Then after you start the game, this noise goes away, then goes to another cutscene before the action. Then when right by the time the gameplay starts, look at this. It's all fucking glitchy. The fuck? Now, I'm not sure if it's my copy of the game or it's not, or if the game itself not on par with Polymega, at least not yet, until hopefully they get an update for it, if that's the case. I mean, I actually have a backup copy from the same disc played the backup copy on here, and it did the same thing. Maybe it's the ISO that was on the original disc it didn't like. It's possible, or if it's the game itself, hopefully I can reach out to Polymega to have them address that issue. Now, the next gripe about the one Sega CD game, which was an unreleased Sega CD game to be exact, Penn and Teller Smoke and Mirrors, which made its way on the internet and then got onto CDRs. However, the Polymega can read the game, but it doesn't have a description of the game once you put the game inside it. In fact, it doesn't have a database for this game, which is fair enough because it was never released. It's also hard for the system to read it. It's also hard for the system to read the game as a 2-disc game, and which makes it difficult if you need to insert disc 2 if you want to continue with the game. It's really difficult doing it that way unless if there's some kind of a trick that I'm not aware of to go around it. Because with the double disc game, I had to do manual configuration of what the game is. I can still install the game on there and it'll still run. I mean, just changing the disc is definitely a hard thing. I mean, it doesn't work like the old-fashioned way on the Polymega where you just insert a disc and then you eject it. I mean, you can't even do it when you're actually just playing off the disc even. Hopefully they can try to find a way to get around to that fixing as well too, and even add that game into the database. However, a good news is for people who are having trouble running Mortal Kombat game on the Sega CD, like the Model 1 for instance, the Polymega won't give you any trouble at all with running Mortal Kombat on the system. Such a shame that this port was absent from the Legacy collection, but at least I'm glad it runs on the Polymega. And pretty much when it comes to console ports, sound-wise, is more close to the arcade as it can get for the most part. However, graphical-wise, it's pretty much the same as the Genesis. Which the Genesis graphics are still good, definitely, though. But before I call the video and give you my final verdict, there's one game I want to show you. Well, it's actually a hack of an original game. Resident Evil True Director's Cut, also known as the Ultimate Director's Cut. Which they made two Director's Cuts on the PlayStation 1 back then. Well, the first one was actually a warm-up for Resident Evil 2, and the second Director's Cut was a DualShock version, which that version was even worse. However, they screwed up on one thing for both of them. They promised the uncensored cutscenes for the first game, but which never did happen. They didn't learn their lesson with the DualShock version. But what screwed it up with the DualShock version is they added a new soundtrack, which is a crappy soundtrack. However, this Ultimate Director's Cut / True Director's Cut fixes all that and brought up the Director's Cut that should have been. And here's something really interesting. They have another disc with this game that replicates the Sega Saturn exclusive battle mode, including a new maze mode that turns the mansion into a non-violent labyrinth. Choose the wrong door and it's back to the start for you. And the cool thing about it is, it works on the system. Now, the game itself does not recognize the info on it, though, as usual. But of course, they don't have the actual database for this version on there, so I didn't really added the director's cut database for this one, so that's added into the extended part of the category. Even though the game still runs, and especially when it's downloaded, it's definitely playable, and I'm definitely happy with this version so far. And pretty much when it comes to playing Resident Evil on the PlayStation with the first game, it's going to be the director's cut, the true director's cut version of it, or slash ultimate director's cut. Now, my verdict on the Polymega remix, well, of course, this console does have cartridge attachments, which I will be talking about in the follow-up. This is just mainly on the default unit of the Polymega remix. Even though it's a cheaper alternative compared to the regular base unit, which the remix does not hook up directly to the TV because it doesn't have an HDMI port, but you still can play them off the TV. You just have to hook the laptop up to the TV or whatever gaming handheld device you have, like the Steam Deck or something. And also another drawback to this one is the system itself doesn't come with a controller. You have to buy a controller individually. But as of right now, this is the only one I can get. I know they're working on more updated base unit models out there, and hopefully they'll get those ones improved. But in the meantime, I'll start collecting the expansion cartridge models. I already have one already, so I will talk about that one in the follow-up. Now, the games from each category so far, the PlayStation, the Saturn, and the Sega CD games, and the TurboGrafx CD game, which is one I have, the JB Harold Murder Club game, they all run pretty good. Majority of them do, with the exception of Terminator on Sega CD for some odd reason. I talked about that a little bit ago. Hopefully they can get a proper fix for games that are unreadable or that don't have... Hopefully they can get a proper fix for games that weren't released back in the day that are not currently in their database, like Penn and Teller Smoke and Mirrors, and get that 2-disc situation to work. That would be pretty awesome. And another good thing they should do, have an alternative type of a controller. And also, some of you may know they also have a light gun peripheral controller out now, which is really smooth, but that's definitely another thing. One thing they should have as a default controller, besides the one that looks like the PlayStation one, they should get one that looks kind of a cross between the PlayStation and the Saturn, except has 6 buttons on the right side. They should add those two on the right side and keep the trigger buttons and the shoulder buttons on top. Or actually just make a Sega Saturn style like controllers, because that would work really good. That would pretty much do the controls for the Sega Saturn games and Sega CD games really well. I mean, other than that, the Sega Saturn and Sega CD games run pretty good. It's just that the controls can be kind of confusing when using the default controller that looks like the PlayStation. Anyway, I don't have no regrets buying the Polymega remix. It's definitely a start. Soon I will be talking about the expansion models. I will keep you all up to post on the Polymega situation here and there. But thank you all very much. In the meantime, I want to say thank you all very much for watching and listening. This is Dixon of the Ultimate Game Room, logging off.